Alright. Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner, classic / non-classic. This is episode number 2503, Doubleshot 2397. Now we have Cable Deadpool Volume 2 and issues of Web of Spider-Man. Yeah. Second volume for Cable Deadpool, Burnt Offering, collecting issues 7 to 12 of the ongoing series of Cable and Deadpool. Oh, you might find this interesting. Once the series is finished, I'm kind of in a way up to date with Deadpool. There is, of course, there's like one shot and another trade for Lester Wong's Wrong Left. That's pretty much it for the character. So I'll mostly put what happens over the course of the issues. Now, of course, you have Fabian Nicieza as all the writing, Patrick Zurcher on the artwork. Now, you might be thinking, does Rob Liefeld do the covers? Not this time. Nope, it's basically Patrick Zurcher, Udon's M3TH, Sean Law, and Frank Dermota. That's what the covers here. They at least credit Rob Liefeld for creating both characters. So also you have Cable and Deadpool working together, and you have Deadpool meeting this guy called the Cat. Yep. He's a recurring threat of this book. And then we have basically an interview with Irene Merriweather, a supporting character, kind of like Cable assistant. This is kind of in the way of the formation of his own self-appointed country, Providence. Yep, and of course, the X-Men show up. And of course, Cable fights them off. Deadpool's just fighting other goons with this Cat character. Yeah, and of course it gets more crazy as it goes on. And apparently at one point you have Deadpool phasing, doing body science of right inside Cable, and of course they get split off. Then you have George Washington Bridge, or GW Bridge. Yeah, it's kind of weird though, Liefeld named this character after an actual landmark. Yes. But here's the strange thing about the character. This topic is heavily associated with Cable. He gets killed off in issue of Punisher. Until he magically came back for reasons unknown. Yep. And apparently he's like, okay, let's do like 6-pack to take down fucking Cable and Deadpool. They have Domino, Constrictor, and like 3 other people. Yeah. And this is from issue number 7 of the book. And you're thinking, okay, who the heck are these people, you might be asking. Yeah, aside from Domino and Constrictor, you also have people called Hammer, Solo, and Arachnia. Solo, yeah, I didn't recognize Solo. Just the art that he looks different. There's also a new character named Hammer. He's a guy in a wheelchair. He's a Fabian Nicieza character. Apparently, they decided to bring him in for some reason. And Akudna. Now, 6-pack, I heard the reason why this group exists, because it's explained in one of the Cable books that originally they called themselves Wild Pack, but they had to legally change their name to 6-pack because of a legal dispute in book with Silver Sable. Yep. And for some reason, Fabian Nicieza brought this group back because he created them. And fun fact, the last time they appeared was in Cable 61, which was released in 1998 as part of the Nemesis contract storyline, which also guest starred S.H.I.E.L.D. And by the way, this issue was released in 2004. Yeah. These issues came out roughly not long after I got into comics. I wasn't reading this point in time, but I did read it later. Yep. A lot gets more crazy, of course, with finding the shield helicarrier. Of course, the X-Men, of course, are wearing the awesome John Cassidy costumes. I love these costumes. Yeah, after their interview with Cable, then 6-pack attacks Cable. Here's Solo in a brand new costume. I wonder why I didn't recognize him. After taking them on, of course, then all of a sudden Deadpool thinks he's an X-Man, even though he really isn't. Yeah, then, of course, then it gets more weirder. It's like, oh, we have these various people show up in this issue, and then issue 9, it gets more weirder. And then we have more X-Men show up. Yeah, now we have characters from Chris Claremont's third run for Uncanny X-Men wearing the new costumes that they got. We have also Bishop, Iceman, Rogue, and Nightcrawler. So we have a combination of Chris Claremont and Joss Whedon here. And we have Deadpool wearing one of Jean Grey's old costumes. That's funny. Yeah, so hilarious. And of course, Storm is here as well. And of course, they are fighting these people. And Deadpool ends up fighting the X-Men. Yep, fighting for quite a while. And then the building they're standing near, part of the shipwreck, gets destroyed by the Silver Surfer. What the heck? The Silver Surfer? Yeah, and that was only issue 9. Yeah, and the cover says, "Oh, we have Silver Surfer as Cable," and yes, this does happen. And you're thinking, wait, why the heck would Silver Surfer do anything with Cable? Here's the strange. I don't know if Silver Surfer ever encountered Cable. It's been a while since I read Cable Volume 1. But Cable never appeared in Silver Surfer. This is the first they ever met. It is weird. It's like, oh, let's have two characters who had long-running series in the 90s fighting each other in this book. My guess in the season really wanted to write him so badly, so why not? And fun fact, I will be reviewing a run for Silver Surfer. I think this issue came out just after the conclusion of the actual book. Yes, I think this was actually his, because I think his book got canceled part of this. Yeah, apparently this issue was also considered issue 101. Because I think this is, because I'm going to talk about basically in the next one, future Comic Corner, I'm going to be discussing Silver Surfer's his actual fourth volume for the series. Yep. And I think this issue came out just after that issue. The last issue came out. By the way, in case you're wondering, Silver Surfer Volume 4 was 14 issues. I'm looking up right now to see if in fact this was basically his next appearance after, like, what was the book publishing at that point in time? Before he popped in this book? No, this was actually his experience just after this book got canceled. Yep. This was his very next appearance. He appears for issues 9 through 11, and then he pops in Hercules, and then pops in Defenders like not long afterwards. Defenders came out in 2005. This Hercules issue came out the very next year. Yeah, so part of the 30 pieces story arc. Yeah, and then pretty much like, it's only a flashback, but he's only here for technically for 2 issues. Which is shocking to say the least. And by we're on the 3 pieces arc, which basically is a 3-parter. Actually, it's a 2-parter, actually. Yep, which involves Return of Agent X. Yes. First time he's been seen, I think, since the end of the Agent X book. Yeah, which this came roughly a year later. Actually, it was like a little over a year later. That was in the final issue of the book. Was released in October 2003. This came out roughly 1 year and 2 months. It's basically, this was his very next appearance. 14 months later. Yes, and he appears for this 2-part story arc. Yeah. Which also involves basically Domino appearing here. Because why not? Yeah, Ari Merriweather basically have been it looks like she was a recurring character from Cable. Now, who created her? James Robinson. Yes. And my guess is, maybe this season, hey, we had this really cool character that popped up a lot in Cable books over the years. And he probably felt as though, why not feature her? Yep, and in case you're curious though, she gets featured in just almost every single issue of this very book as a supporting character, except for the last issue. Then she pops up 3 more times afterwards, and that was it for her. Yeah, but then pretty much after this two-part story, which involved the return of Ajax, and we have a... Yeah, then that's pretty much what happened. Basically, it's like, okay, so we have Burnt Offering being a four-parter, which I thoroughly enjoy this. It's almost like basically, and this is my... okay, so apparently Nightcrawler, Bishop Storm, and Marvel are part of the XSC, the Extreme Sanctions Executive, which basically were characters from... Definitely from Chris Claremont's run, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which apparently these characters move over to the book when Chris Claremont took over the book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they were around the book until like issue like 462. Now you're probably thinking, was that the last time they appeared? Well, yes. It was kind of the start of the House of M. It was basically sort of the House of M time. They actually had him appear for reasons. I'm not really sure why in the world Claremont decided to have this span for, but there's that. But love these issues. I think this book is really good. It's almost like the season is doing a love letter to basically fans of the 90s run for the 90s stuff. I give this book a 10 out of 10. It was actually really good. Yep. So, hold on. I almost forgot here. Where are you? So next up, we're talking about issues 22 through 28, 34 to 43, and annuals 3 and 4 of Web of Spider-Man. Yep. Yeah, pretty much of the opening issue take on Raxon and the IRA in the first issue. Mm-hmm. Yep, and then basically next issue we deal with Slide and the Vulture. Slide actually last appeared back in Amazing Spider-Man 272, which was actually his day appearance. This was his very next appearance he appeared in. And then he next appeared in Captain America 412, which came out 5 years later. The Vulture, meanwhile, his next appearance was the very next issue. Which, of course, 24 was in shadow appearance of... 23 was kind of another shadow appearance of Eddie Brock. Of course, you have Vulture and Rose here. Yeah, then we have this alien named Zagtia. Who, by the way, the issues were by Larry Lieber. Oh, if you're really curious, he wrote issues 22, 24. We have Len Kametsky and Mark Silvestri, who did 22. 23 is Len Kametsky, Devin Michelini, and Jim Farn. 24 is the same two as previous issue and Dale Barris. 25 is written and drawn by Larry Lieber. Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, let's have Spider-Man take on aliens for an issue. Yep, and then we have this really cool cover by Chris Voss, basically, for The Best Laid Plans, where he take on the Stan brothers. This mostly is a connection to Carnage. Well, later on anyways. Then we have an issue... Oh, by the way, we have this really cool cover change here with basically this yellow banner or web of his first appearance of the Executive Services Incorporated, which was a company who gives it for one issue. Yep. Then 28, of course, by itself against some Rebels. And 29 is a Guts appearance. Now, the reason I'm discussing 29 to 33 because in the case of these issues, I've talked about these issues in the Amazing Spider-Man Epic Collection. Mm-hmm. So now skipping to 34. 34 deals with the Watcher guest starring and fighting off against another alien. You're thinking, what? Yeah. And then 35 has the most hilarious return I have ever seen. Okay, so in 35, we have the return of the living brain. A object last appeared back in Amazing Spider-Man 15. Yeah, that was the last time this thing showed up. You're thinking, what? Seriously? Yes, the living brain. Oh boy. Yeah. The living brain actually back in issue 8. Issue 8 in 1963. This was the first appearance of the living brain. And supposedly appearing in Spider-Man number 20, it really didn't. Probably was a flashback, but yeah, and apparently goes wild again, eventually destroyed again. And then it returns. Like, by the way, this is in 1988. This is roughly about 25 years after its debut appearance. And then it returned again for 25 years. Once again, its next special appearance is in the first issue of Superior Spider-Man. Yeah, Slott brought back this silly thing. We also first appearance of the new Tarantula, Luis Alvarez. Yep. And he's Tarantula for about 7 years. Yep. And he first appears in 35 and 36. He next pop up in Spectacular Spider-Man 137 and 38. Then appeared in a couple issues of Amazing Spider-Man. One issue of Mark Comics presents a story arc for Punisher. A couple issues of Captain America. Another issue of Mark Comics presents he finally got killed off in Venom Center Takes All. And General Vermone, who was his financer, who appears for 2 issues. By the way, this is written by Jerry Conway and arc by Alex Savick. Alex Savick is a classic Amazing Spider-Man artist. And then we have the first appearance of Tombstone, issue 36. And you're thinking, really? Yeah. Web of Spider-Man 36 is the first appearance of Tombstone. I would say it's the first publication appearance, mostly. Yeah. Also, Farik, who appears for 3 comics. He actually died in issue 900 of Amazing Spider-Man. And 37 fights off against a woman who was a serial killer. And you'll think, oh yeah, but we have Dakota North in this book. Yep, Dakota North, a character who in the 2000s was a supporting character in Daredevil. Ooh, by the way, this is a little fun fact you might be interested in. When she appeared with Spider-Man 30, so this is just after her appearance in her solo book. Yeah, Dakota North had a mini-series published back in the 80s that lasted for 5 issues. And then she popped up in Web of Spider-Man, and then Power Pack. Well, and Marvel Superheroes. Then she became a regular supporting character in Luke Cage. Fused Black Panther, then she popped up again in Daredevil. If you're curious, what was most recent appearance? It was actually the Marvels number 5, but that was a flashback. But technically, you could say it was issue 30. Well, it was mostly a flashback. I would say it probably was Captain Marvel, maybe? You could say it was kind of in the way. Basically, her most recent appearance. But it was something to feature in the book. I thought was quite interesting. So there was that. And then we have where issue 38, where Hobgoblin, the Arranger, and Tombstone appear in this issue. Yeah, the Arranger is currently dead. Yeah, and the Arranger was a character who had been appeared on and off in Spider-Man books. Yeah, and this actually was his last appearance in this book for a while until issue 50. But the guy is currently dead. Now, the Ranger previously appeared in Daredevil 253, Tombstone, The Spectacular Spider-Man 137, the Hobgoblin, who's the second Hobgoblin. He last appeared back in Web of Spider-Man 29. Yep. And in 39, yes, the Return of the Looter, who last appeared back in Peter Parker Spider-Man number 41. Yay, a character returned 8 years after his last appearance. I've never cared about the Looter. I think he's a terrible villain. Then we have the Code of Love story arc. Yeah, so we have an actual story arc here. Yeah, which lasts for a few issues. It's a weird story arc. Now, oh, by the way, the people who read these issues for 34 to 43, for 34, it's Jim Shooter and Sal Buscema. For 35, it's Jerry Conway and Alex Sevick. And, of course, they do the following issue, 36. 37, Jim Owsley, Chris Priest, and Steve Geiger. 38, Fabian DeCease and Alex Sevick. 39, same creative team. 40, Peter David and Alex Sevick. I think it's the same writers for pretty much the whole book. It's mostly, the best way to describe Code of Love, it is, but mostly put Betty Brant trying to deal with her own grief about the death of her husband. That's most what it is, and the Code of Love is dealt with in the final issue. 43. But you're thinking, okay, what about the annuals? Well, there were 2 annuals. Day number 3. It's mostly like a big profile book. Written by Danny Fagerhoff, Roger Stark by Alex Sevick, Frank Gugela, Don Perlin, Steve Geiger, Michael Nessler, Jim Mooney, Greg LaRocca, Al Gordon, and Peter Pawlowski. That issue they came out between 30 and 31. As for number 4, it's a tie-in to the Evolutionary War, where Spider-Man takes on the Kingpin of Miami, the Slug, which showing this issue he actually murdered one of his own subordinates because he failed. How did he kill him? He smothered him with his own belly. Or basically stuck him in his own gut like this and crushed him because he failed at his job. Like, how is he? He's dead. Good. And then he dumps in the pool. I'm like, that's a stupid place to throw a body. Yeah, the Slug is absolutely disgusting. Because this guy eats, you think the Kingpin is more awesome than this guy is. At least Kingpin, despite the fact he's been called a fat man, but at least he works out. Slug does not freaking care. He eats like crazy. It's like he's a Spider-Man version of the Blob. Yeah, he's a Blob rip-off. I've never cared for the Slug. He's by far a terrible villain. And this is what I'm interested with the Slug. He's not originally a Spider-Man villain. He started in Captain America 324. Yeah. And there's an image on the Wiki page of him basically smothering one of his subordinates who failed him. Yeah, and of course he was the Kingpin as well. Then that was basically continued from King X 12. And it was a story featuring Poison, which was a character who got killed off in Wolverine. Yeah, she was an occasional recurring character, but this was her debut, and then she became she had a feature in Marcon Presents, popped up in Spider-Man 64, appeared in a couple issues of Wolverine, and that was it for her. Then we have the High Evolutionary story in the final one, which I found quite interesting. Yep. But as of right now, I've reviewed some of the High Evolutionary War stuff. The other things I have not reviewed yet is the End of Punisher. And that's it. Just Punisher. That's the only one left to go. But Evolutionary War is an interesting crossover. I appreciated it because it features a High Evolutionary. And yeah, not much else to say about it. By the way, who does the 4th annual? The 4th annual, the opening story is by the late Steve Gerber, artwork by Cynthia Martin. Second story, Steve Gerber, Alex Selvig. The third and final story is Mark Greenwald and Rob Lem. Yep. The stuff in here is really good. I'm going to give this book roughly these issues roughly a 9 out of 10. Pretty good stuff here. Yep. But yeah, that's a particular view. Next up is Warmer Comic Corner, and then it's on to 100 Girlfriends. Okay, next view. Bye.